Good afternoon, everybody.
I'm doing a lot better
Okay.
than yesterday.
We're starting up, crew. We're starting up. Hello. It's Wednesday, January 24th, and this is the regular meeting of the Pitkin County Commissioners. John, we're going to start with you and ask for additions or deletions to the agenda for today.
No additions or deletions to the agenda today.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go directly to public comment. If there's anybody in the room who would like to get up and say anything about a topic which is not on today's agenda, this would be your chance. And if you're online, I don't see any unrecognizable phone numbers online, so we don't have anybody raising their hand here, so we're going to close public comment. I'm going to commissioner comment. Is there a commissioner who would like to make a comment? Patty.
I would just say that I'm wearing a mask because it's going to be hard to hear me anyway, but I'm not going to be saying much because the more I talk, the more I cough, and we don't want that. So thank you, guys. I'm keeping my distance from everyone. It's not because I don't like you, it's because I like you that I'm keeping my distance. So
Thank you. Thanks. You know, what's great after COVID is that wearing a mask is not such a strange thing these days. So I appreciate that people wear masks when they need to. Any other commissioner comments? Steve, got anything?
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Charla Belinsky, who this Sunday will be installed as the new minister at the Snowmass Chapel. She has been the assistant and now is moving into the #1 position. So
Fantastic. That's right.
I
She's
look
been there a
forward.
while.
I've always enjoyed it when she gave the homily, and she's a very gracious person, and so I'm looking forward to having her there as the pastor.
Wonderful. Thanks for that. Francie, comments?
Well, just to say that I can't really hear very well. Well, in general, but right now, I couldn't understand anything that Patty said, and Steve kind of came in and out. I don't know whether that's my computer, Patty's mask.
We're going to work on that. We're going to project better into our microphones. Kelly, any public comments?
Sure,
Welcome.
yes. Thank you. My apologies for running a little late. Thanks to Subaru for getting me out soon enough.
You have to speak up, just so you know. We've been
Okay.
told to speak up.
Okay. And I will just invite the community, if you haven't already seen the flyers and advertisements, that ACE's Wilderness Workshops Naturalist Nights, I think in partnership with ACES and Audubon, are putting on a talk tonight and tomorrow, tonight in Carbondale and tomorrow up here at ACES, about wild and scenic rivers. And the speaker is a woman, Jennifer Back, who is an expert and retired federal staffer that sat on the Interagency Coordinating Council for Wild and Scenic Rivers, and we'll talk about the benefits of a designation. And as you know, this board has supported a designation for the Crystal River, and we've been supporting the community conversation around that. So please consider going if you don't have plans, and it will be recorded and can be accessed via Facebook, YouTube, and Grassroots TV after the events.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for that.
Good job.
No other. I've got one or two quick things. One is just the observation that, you know, and I think I'm guilty of it also. In our community, we talk about Aspen being a town of, you know, a sleepy little town of 6,000 or 7,000 people, and our county being a county of 18,000 residents. And I think we need to dispel everybody of that, because I think our community is closer to 135,000 people, and it stretches from Aspen all the way to Newcastle or Silt. And on a daily basis, the last time we checked, on a busy high season day, we had about 54,000 people, whether it's tourists, commuters, locals, all coming into the valley. In the off season, it's only 34,000 people a day. But as long as we keep thinking that we're a small town of 6,000 or 7,000 and we, you know, a county of 18,000, it's really easy to just try to ignore the really pressing issues we have around transit and housing and everything else. And so I just wanted to, I think I'm going to talk about that a lot this year. That's the first thing. Second thing is I wanted to congratulate and thank the Aspen Thrift Shop the volunteers at the thrift shop are going to be celebrating their 75th anniversary of running the thrift shop this year. And all that time, they've been raising money for local nonprofits and causes, their community causes of all sorts, education programs, environment programs, and youth activities. And they just announced, but they haven't updated their website, so I don't know who all is on this year's recipients, but they've done it again. They've raised a great money through the sales of our used clothing at the thrift shop, and I think the volunteers at the thrift shop in particular, perhaps along with all the other volunteers in town, are the glue that hold our community together. And I want to encourage everyone to shop at the thrift shop and to volunteer there when you get a chance. It's actually kind of an interesting community and social group in itself. So that's my public service announcement for them for the day. And Steve has another one. Go ahead.
To tag on to that about the thrift shop, they've had a uptick in the number of shoplifting incidents from the thrift shop. As a consequence, they're going to start their no backpacks rule again, and people will have to check their backpacks at the front counter when they go in there so they aren't tempted to haul things out of there in their backpack that they haven't paid for.
Wow, that's good to know. I didn't realize that was a problem. Thanks for telling me and telling everyone. It's a shame. Okay, we're gonna move right along regarding the minutes of January 10th. Does anyone have a comment on the minutes? And if not, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the minutes of January 10th.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
I'll second.
Second from Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving along to individual consideration items. Emergency resolution confirmatory reading. This is an emergency resolution of the Commissioners levying general property taxes for the year 2023 to help defray the costs of government for Pitkin County, Colorado, and its special districts for fiscal year 2024. And Ann Driggers is here to explain things to us.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ann Driggers, Chief Financial Administrative Officer and Treasurer and Public Trustee for Pitkin County. You first had this item before you on January the 10th. It was an emergency resolution due to the state legislature enacting various new laws for the treatment of mill levies and property tax for 2023 to be collected in 2024. They changed the calendar, so January the 10th was the date that we had to have submitted the mill levies to or have them approved by each taxing entity, and so that didn't allow us to have a 2-week time period in order to do our normal process per our home rule charter. So therefore we're doing this emergency resolution. So the background of this is every year we approve mill levies after the budget has been approved. This is to fund the budget. And we calculate the mill levies based upon assessed values for Pitkin County. Those calculations were all made, and revenue restrictions applied in cases where they were required and also in cases where they were not required. So temporary mill levy credits were applied to every single one of the county's funds with the exception of Redstone Ranch Acres GID or GRID, I should say. Those homeowners determined they wish to collect the full amount of their tax to apply to the maintenance of their roads and bridges in their district. So the total property taxes to be collected by Pitkin County as an entity itself for 2024, 45.7 million, and the details of that are in the exhibit to the resolution.
Great, thanks, Ann. Any questions, comments from anybody? How many times have we seen this is my question.
I'm good.
I think we've all pretty well versed in it, but if anyone has.
I would just add that it underlies the entire budget. It's the revenue for our budget that you have reviewed and approved over the last
4 months?
Oh, longer, I would
Maybe
say.
longer.
Well, it feels like probably.
Since you started, you
months
and Connie
for
started working
Connie.
on it. Yeah.
And it's just taken us this long because we haven't had the evaluations from the assessor and because of the delay from the state legislature. So it's
Right.
been a big part of the budget throughout the year.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, thanks, Anne. My comments are more of a general nature and to bring to the attention to the public the activity of the Commission on Property Tax, which is currently convened as a result of the legislature's interim session that pushed back some of these deadlines, including our deadline today. And they will be doing a bit of a roadshow collecting public comment from the citizens of Colorado. I think they have 7 public meetings scheduled. One is in Grand Junction this Saturday, which is the closest one to our community. But folks should go on the General Assembly website and look at the commission's details. I also would possibly recommend, if you really want to dig in, listening when looking at the documents that they handed out for the first 2 of their meetings. They had one in December and then one in early January, which had a lot of educational and background information that I found to be quite valuable. Just talking about the different values that property tax tries to balance in a community and how Colorado is situated compared to other states in the country, both with like overall tax burden and the role that property tax plays. I would encourage maybe our board to take the opportunity to submit comments to the commission. I was very drawn to some of the comments of the legislators that sit on that commission and just the real disparity of their knowledge in understanding what local government does and the role that property tax plays in local government. So for me, it was a little concerning that they didn't seem to have any understanding of the limitations that are naturally built into many of our budgets, that are built into many of our authorities to collect tax. So I think it would be great if we took an opportunity, and I'd be happy to messenger a statement from our board into that process. So, with that, I would note, our actual valuation of $70 billion in real estate in Pickens County is quite a lot. Our actual valuation of $5 billion, or our assessed valuation of $5 billion, is more than the GDP of entire African countries. So it's really a very significant role, I think, in our local economy here. So I'll just comment on that. I think we've done a good job in balancing the need to collect tax to provide excellent service. We went through our survey yesterday where the community has said that we deliver excellent service across many of our service areas, and it does require resources to do that. So I think that approving this, to me, I feel comfortable doing it. We've really balanced the need to collect tax with the provision of excellent service and the management of shock to household budgets for the increase in valuations. And so I hope we've done that well. I hope the community thinks that we've been good stewards of their tax dollars and can, feel supportive of our decision today.
Thank you, Kelly. Anybody else?
No, good.
I think it is a public hearing.
It is a public hearing. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here who would like to speak on this topic, this would be your opportunity. I don't see anybody who I think would be here for that online, but if you do, Bart in particular, raise your hand, but I don't think that's why you're here. Anyone in the room want to comment on this? No hands up. I'm going to close it back up and bring it back to the board. And I think it's time for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the emergency resolution of the board levying general property taxes for the year 2023 to help defray the costs of government for Pickens County, Colorado, and its special districts for fiscal year 2024.
Thank you, Steve. Kelly, second. All in favor?
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. Thank you. Thanks, and thanks for coming in and explaining it as you and Connie and Liz do so well for so many months. Okay, we're moving to individual consideration items. First reading set for public hearing on February 14th, the Valentine's Day hearings. Resolution of the board approving and authorizing the chair to sign a grant agreement with the State of Colorado Department of Local Affairs to facilitate the development of a climate action plan. Michael Port is on deck.
Hey there. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Port, Climate Action Analyst. The title of this session is pretty self-explanatory. We received a grant from the Department of Local Affairs to help us craft our climate action plan. Part of that is also doing a greenhouse gas inventory. So I can say we've already started prepping for this work. We got our partners together, our municipalities, to do a regional greenhouse gas inventory, and then using that data, we can all individually take that to work on our own climate action plans, and the county will use that to develop our climate action plan. So allowing us to accept this grant will help us hire a firm to guide us through that climate action planning process. So we're seeking approval to come back on the 14th of February for a second reading.
Great, thank you. I'm reminded that when I was the chair last time, which is 5 years ago, we had the kids from the Aspen schools came in and demanded we declare a climate emergency and develop a climate action plan, which we did. And I think for the remainder of that year and maybe another year or so after, whenever one of our departments reported to the commissioners, they would almost always preface it with how we're doing on our climate action plan. And I'd like to see a return to that with just a succinct, a brief report on how the climate action plan fits. Because it seems that we're doing everything through a climate lens, or should be if we haven't, but I think we are. And this grant agreement's fantastic, and it's going to help us keep moving that forward, all the things we're doing on climate. So I just wanted to suggest that to my board, and if they think it's a good idea. I really like getting that, how does this fit with our climate action plan? It keeps it front and center. Board comment?
Francie has her hand up.
Thanks, Francie.
Yeah, I first got the letter about the award of this grant in October, and other than the normal slowness of government, is there some reason why we're only accepting it now, 3 months later? Wondering what that process is.
The actual contract wasn't sent until right before the holidays, so that was just on the DOLA side. They sent us.
What?
They sent us
What'd you say?
They sent us the letter of award like 2 months before we actually received the contract. So that was just on the DOLA side.
So yes, the answer is the regular slowness of government.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so there's the grant award process where it goes through the committee and then staff award. And there will be up to 35 grants that are awarded, sometimes more in each cycle. And then DOLA has to develop a contract and scope of work for each of those grants that then comes through us for review. Sometimes we do a little bit of back and forth, and it just takes time to get that many contracts out.
Okay, thanks, John.
Yeah.
Thanks, Francie. Good question. And it was the holidays and the general slowness of government. Steve.
Yeah, Michael, could you talk a little bit about the whole process? Like, we have a climate action plan already. The city of Aspen has a climate action plan and their Canary initiative. We've had lots of these studies. So how is this one, how will it be different from the preceding ones?
Yeah, typically climate action plans do receive an update kind of commonly every 5 years or so. Things change. Obviously, the direction of the local government changes on different projects. So that's a pretty standard thing to update them periodically. But in a general sense, what we're planning to do is essentially kind of workshop what are we already doing, what have we done in the past that worked, what are we doing currently, what do we think we can accomplish in the future to get us toward our 2050 GHG reduction goal. So there's just going to be a lot of back and forth with departments that kind of play a key role in doing that, and also working with our other local governments around here to see if there are opportunities for collaboration as well. And yeah, we're planning to do this kind of over the course of this year. We haven't finalized any plans, but from a high level, that's kind of how the approach is.
Okay, and will the public have an opportunity to provide input into the plan? Because we have some really intelligent, well-informed people in our citizenry who I think would be glad to participate in this in some fashion.
Yeah, that's a pretty important part of climate action planning, is having that engagement piece. So in some form, we will do that. We haven't quite ironed out the exact plan, but yes.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to note that this will be up in a public hearing on the 14th of February, and that may not be the time to weigh in on what the plan should include, but people could always show up and talk on that if they wanted to. Kelly.
Yeah, will this model some of the things that we're doing now in terms of trying to anticipate future reductions? For example, updating our building energy code or implementing the microgrid. Will we get to sort of see what the future reductions those things might contribute to?
Yeah, that's definitely something that we can do, and for sure we want to incorporate the projects that we're already have been doing that have these kind of innovative carbon reduction impacts, and we're going to be working closely with ComDev on the energy codes and building performance standards and all of that. So yes, we can definitely do forecasting or modeling to see what the impact of our current projects will be.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. It occurs to me that since the last time we had a plan developed, we've blown by some targets, and also the game has changed, and the industries have changed, and the innovation has been running at a fever pitch. So it's clear that we need to adjust the direction of the ship. And every 5 years might not be often enough, but it's obvious and clear that there will be changes, and public input on that should be really useful, especially as Steve points out in this community where we have a lot of people paying attention. Thank you for that. Any other comment? I'm looking for a motion. And I can just say, to approve and authorize the chair to sign a grant agreement with the state of Colorado, DOLA, to facilitate the development of a climate action plan.
I'll move.
Yes, I'll second.
Okay, Francie move, Kelly second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for coming
Are you
in.
having any internet trouble?
Right now?
I'm struggling to access the packet because the internet is not working.
Oh, I had a problem and I took it in yesterday and it seems to be working today. But I don't know what to tell you. Something changed.
You know what told me mine needed to be updated,
No, I just
Right.
and I keep
restarted.
putting it off doing the update, so it's not in the middle of the meeting.
Okay, individual consideration items, public hearing, the second reading. So remind me that this is a
Can't
public
look at
hearing when you
everything
need
'cause I
to.
can't get it.
This is a resolution approving contract amendment number 2 with the State of Colorado Department of Human Services Behavioral Health Admin for funding for the Pitkin Area Co-Responder Team, the PACT program, which we just heard about last week. And welcome, come on back. Glad you're
you.
here. I love this program.
I love talking about this program.
I'm sure you'd
happy
wear
to
your
be
hat,
here.
Greg.
Pull your microphone in and make sure the red light's on.
Greg,
If
I
you
was
don't
sure you'd
left
wear your
click over
hat.
here, it's
I
gonna.
should have my PACT hat on,
I
but I
even
think I
found
wore
mine
it
and
out.
forgot it. I had it laid out
I
and
think I've
everything.
worn my hat out. Okay, who's starts.
I will start. Good afternoon, Katie Hundermark, Program Administrator for the Pitkin Area Co-Responder Teams, also known as PACT. And I am here today for the second reading to approve a resolution to accept additional grant funding through the Behavioral Health Administration for the purpose of expanding the PACT program. And I am also joined today by Officer Braulio Jerez with the Aspen Police Department and Katrina Bush, who is our current co-responder with Mind Springs Health. As a recap for anyone in attendance who may be unfamiliar with the program, PACT pairs mental health clinicians with law enforcement to respond to calls for service in which there may be a mental health or a substance use component. We also offer wraparound services for interested individuals through our full-time case management and peer services. PACT was originally funded under the Co-Responder Grant Program in what was then the Office of Behavioral Health back in fiscal year 2018, and funding has continued annually thereafter. We were awarded a second grant through CDPHE in fiscal year 2020 to support some expansion at that time as well. The original grant, which is the funding that is being offered as an increase today, supports a majority of the program administrator's salary, one full-time clinician, and a full-time peer specialist, and also has some funding available for operational costs such as direct client supports, travel, training, office supplies, things like that. This year's initial funding amount, which was approved by this board in, I believe, May of 2023, was for $380,000. And currently, the new contract amendment will add an additional $95,904 for a total of $475,904. This came about over the summer when the BHA approached public health with an opportunity for expansion fundings. And after consulting with the steering committee, as well as members of the team, we decided that the addition of a second peer specialist would be in the best interest of the program, as well as a vehicle for transporting clients in the field. At this point, we've seen a lot of success through our peer interactions. And peer specialists are essentially individuals who have lived experience in the areas of behavioral health and or substance use, who have really helped engage our clients in treatment and helped with adherence of treatment as well. We've found that in a lot of cases, they can act as a bridge for individuals who might be, at least at first, reluctant to engage with other types of providers. Our hope for this position is to really focus on that recovery piece and really help engage clients earlier. So focusing on prevention and early intervention, working with community partners to identify those at-risk individuals and hopefully be able to wrap some services around them before they get to Braulio or Cat. Thank you. That's what I have for you today, but I know you may have some questions, especially for Braulio.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for bringing you in. I don't have any questions now because I think we covered it well. I can share a brief anecdote, just thinking back to growing up in Aspen and the incidents where we had law enforcement. You have a problem, Francie? I hear you talking.
I can't. It's really the audio is really breaking up. Is it breaking up for you, John?
Yeah, Greg, I don't know if you can get closer to your mic.
I just got closer. Is that better? We'll see. Okay, if that did it, that's funny. Not that much, but sorry. Anyway, growing up, I remember specific instances where we had real serious problems with drug or alcohol use and or mental health crises, and the law enforcement did their best to deal with it, and I think they did a pretty good job in general, but there were some real borderline crisis situations, and you realize there really is a need for PACT, especially in this community. And so, and you think also that some of the more high-profile incidents in Denver and Front Range, where you see tragic deaths of people that perhaps a PACT program could have helped. And I don't know enough about it to opine any more than that, but I wonder about it. Questions from the board for our crew here? Anything you want to say? Kelly has a question.
Yeah, I'm curious, related to the hours of availability for the teams to respond and how well that lines up, or how do you mitigate, the having there be a time where the teams aren't available and providing services?
That is a great question. Kat is currently in the field Tuesday through Friday between the hours of 7:30 and about 5:30. Occasionally it goes late, like yesterday when there's a later call that comes in at the tail end. And then the other members of the team are available on Mondays to sort of triage and process referrals from the weekend. We are actively recruiting for the second clinician so that we can hopefully return to 7-day-a-week coverage in the near future. In the time periods when PACT is not in the field and available to respond to calls for service, we do partner with our crisis provider, who is currently the Hope Center, and they are available 24/7 to respond to needs from law enforcement or the community for those crisis situations.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you for that. Do either of you want to add anything?
I was just going to speak to actually the hours, as that's all determined by our data too. So the days and hours, like my schedule shifted when our second clinician moved into a different position to capture the most active calls. So that all comes from our data that we're pretty diligent in collecting and looking to capture the most and what time of day that all is. So we're looking at that with every data pull that we do.
Great.
Yeah. And in regards to the referral process when we're not available. All officers have access to a program that we use to make a referral when we are not there, and typically that works. So all three agencies that PAC works alongside has access to this programming to do the referrals for individuals that may need our assistance moving forward.
Great, thank you. I wanted to ask just about big events, X Games coming up. Do you see a spike in the need or the activity? Is PAC going to be participating in the management and the preparation for that? Or has it ever been an issue?
I think, have you worked X Games?
When she was
I was the first clinician back in the day, and I did participate in X Games in, I want to say it was 2019, 2020, early 2020, and it was actually really quiet. We've also done overnight shifts on New Year's. And I remember, when I was in the field a couple of years ago, it was a good thing to loop us in for those sort of events when there are a lot more people in town and
Right.
a lot of potential for issues to come up. I don't know about this year though. Has anybody asked you?
We weren't planning on it. I have worked just in general, not specifically that event, last year, and we didn't see any kind of increase in anything. Our biggest increases come around the full moon, so that's basically the same thing.
Just Thursday.
Yeah, so
Tomorrow.
I'm working tomorrow for sure.
Okay, well, that'll
But
be
we had
interesting to
packed
hear.
on this New Year's. We had packed on this New Year's for up till midnight-ish.
Great. Well, it's great to have you here. This is a public hearing, and, Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, how can we best support you?
Money.
Except
For
the
us,
grant.
it's like a very, well, I'm happy to do that. But, what else can we do? I mean, this has been a very important component in so many other policy conversations that we have related to, the landscape of mental health services, the landscape of diversion from jail, and all of that we have some hands in. And so since you all are here, it's not all of our programs tend to impact many other programs. And so I would like to understand, how we could best support you at whatever level is most impactful.
first of all, I just want to say thank you for that offer. And I think the support that you've shown and your interest in the program, it means the world to us. And especially the team out there currently doing the work. It's difficult work. It can be challenging sometimes, you know, emotionally and otherwise, especially when you run into those situations where there are barriers. And so we're constantly partnering with other providers in the community and really trying to spread awareness and destigmatize some of these issues. So I just think the more that we can talk about it as a community and really make it okay for people who are in need to ask for and receive help, will come a long way. And I've just seen so much growth over the last 5 years. I mean, we started out, I just showed up one day saying, what are we doing? Let's do some things. And we built a whole program. And now this team has carried things forward in such a proactive way. And I just see, again, the data, the numbers are really heartening in a lot of ways, because the need has probably always been there, but it was more in the shadows or swept under the rug. And now people are reaching out more. At least that's my perspective. Do you guys have anything to add?
I would say education is super important, and it would be a benefit in terms of support. Just getting the word out there that we exist, what we offer, what we do. I will also say that systemic issues sometimes are an issue that we deal with consistently in working with, like Katie mentioned, some of these nonprofits or other organizations that we work with. Communication is not always the easiest, and people are going in different directions. Organizations are going in different directions. So those are the things that I think we would appreciate more support with, and how to work together.
Okay, great.
Right. You know, on the topic of education, I was just thinking about how the pandemic kind of shot the legs out from under it, but we had started a mental health first aid trainings for the schools and at the youth center and for adults as well. And we were kind of getting that ramped up, but then, you know, it just kind of fell apart with COVID. I don't know if that has. I see somebody
Let me jump
smiling.
in.
Okay.
I'm like,
Thank you.
I'm at
And
the edge
I
of
need to
my
be
seat,
brief,
too.
but I would love to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we're actually going to have me trained in teaching mental health first aid, so being able to offer that to the community for whoever needs it. And we're currently doing
Verbal de-escalation.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for almost 2 years-ish around the community, as far as Glenwood at times too, for picking the Garfield County Library and other places like that. So we've offered our services valley-wide.
Excellent. That's
And
great.
we are planning a mental health first aid training. We had a request from Open Space and Trails for a new ranger. So we are thinking April, May, or maybe early May, kind of before the summer season kicks up, and probably will have pretty good capacity to make this a larger event. So as I get more details, I will reach out and open it up to see if there's any interested members of the community as well.
That's great. You could take that to ACES and to some of the other groups that have rangers and guides and, you know, Forest Service maybe.
Yeah, I think it's great for anyone.
Which we've done with open space, or Pickens County Open Space
Already done.
and City of Aspen Open Space. Every year almost, we do at least one de-escalation training, but mental health first aid is not one that we've done as of yet.
I took the training 3 or 4 years ago, but it's been a while. So, Patty.
Yeah, the ski company, I think that would be really valuable for ski instructors. They've had a lot of issues over the last couple of years of suicides and other issues with ski instructors, ski pros, ski company employees. And I think that would be really, really helpful. So that would be a great outreach.
Absolutely, and we are in communication, and we're hoping to do a community-wide overdose awareness and prevention event, and we want to correlate it with sort of like the have it coincide with the end of ski season, when we know those folks are particularly vulnerable, and even have a presence, you know, at some of the closing day events potentially.
And one other thing, I don't know if I can speak for the rest of my board, but when I go to meetings throughout the region or state, I like to brag about this program because of its successes, because we were the first to get it going, and other communities are like, what are you talking about? And it cues them up, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity. So hopefully that word will be spread, and I think we all are really proud of the work that you guys do. So thank you all.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Supporting us.
And we need a motion.
Did we do a public hearing?
Didn't I already do the public hearing? Didn't I do it
No,
already?
you
Oh,
got to me first.
I'm opening it to public hearing. If anybody wants to comment on this in the room, I don't see any hands raised. Do we have anyone online, Michaela? I'm guessing not.
Oh,
But
Lindsay.
is Lindsay coming for something else? She's Lindsay's your hand up for this one, or for one of the several more behind it? I think she's up next. Okay. All right. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Okay. I'm just trying to keep things going here. Can I get a motion?
Dusting off the cobwebs. Yes, sorry, I'm.
Motion from Kelly.
Yes, I'll
Second
move
from
to approve the
Steve.
resolution for the grant.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you.
And I hope you all are taking care
Thanks for coming
of
in. This is
yourselves.
super exciting. Keep us up to date on the mental health first aid.
We will.
Thank you. Absolutely. Take care.
Okay, up next, we have the resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with the Colorado Department of Human Services for the Colorado Works Program, and Lindsay is on now. Now you're on. Take it away.
Hello, good morning, or I guess afternoon, everyone. Lindsay Maish, Human Services Director for Picking County. Good to see you all. This is the second reading for two resolutions today, one for our Colorado Child Care Assistance Program allocation and our working agreements, and the other one for our Colorado Works Program, also known as TANF, for the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families allocation. Both of these are historic allocations and understandings that we have with the state. They come through every year, and they're coming through for an extension. What I will say is that we've been working with the attorney on how to best do this so that we preserve your time and our time as well. And what you can expect to see from us moving forward is that starting at our next Board of Social Services meeting, we'll end up closing that meeting and bringing all of these resolutions forward so that we're not doing them as they kind of pepper in. We'll be getting approval from you all for our ongoing kind of allocations that we get every year that we need approval from you on. So we'll get them in front of you up front, and then hope to kind of minimize some of these meetings where we're peppering or sprinkling them in. So just wanted to plant that seed, let you all know, but for the sake of today, we are doing the two resolutions, one for CCAP, or our Colorado Child Care Assistance Program, and one for our Colorado Works Program.
Right. Thank you for that, and thanks for consolidating them. That sounds like an efficiency measure. I approve. Okay, any questions from the board at this point? Comments? I don't see any hands up. This seems like, once again, it's a really valuable thing, and I can't see why anybody would be against it. It is a public hearing. If anyone wants to weigh in on the TANF and the memorandum of understanding with CDHES for the Colorado Works Program, that's a mouthful. I don't see anyone online. Nobody in the room raising their hands. I'm going to bring it back to the board, and I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the memorandum from whomever wants to raise it.
I'll move to approve the resolution approving the memorandum of understanding with the Colorado Department of Human Services for the Colorado Works Program.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Lindsay. And
And now
I think
I will
Lindsay's
make
up next.
do
Oh, sure, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving the memorandum of understanding with CDHS Office of Early Childhood.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Just to open the, is there anything you want to tell us about that in particular before we vote? Nope, nothing left. I'm going to open it to the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak on this, I don't see any hands raised in the room or online. I'm bringing it back for the board. No other questions. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
You sure that's what
You
you
got
want
them all.
us to
Okay.
say?
Thank you. Thanks, Lindsay. That went very smoothly. Okay, we're moving on to item number 7. This is an ordinance of the County Commissioners authorizing the purchase of Snowmass Falls Ranch from Perry Snowmass LLC. And we have Gary Dale and a special guest here today.
And Rye. Even though it's
And Rye. Rye's here also. Rye's always here, but he's special.
that's what I meant.
You guys are all
Seriously?
special.
Thanks.
Okay, so take it away, Dale.
Well, thank you, Greg. I'm Dale Will, Acquisition Director for Pitkin County Open Space and Trails. And what we have in front of you for second reading is the largest financial outlay ever proposed in the 30-odd year history of this program. So we're pretty excited about it. Let me see if I can share a screen and get some eye candy going on here. Oh, where'd it go? I had this all loaded up. I see it. So, one more step. They normally don't let me operate these things.
That's why I'm watching him closely.
What just happened? What just happened?
Just
happened?
Because I was watching him like a hawk. Yes.
That kind of
Then you get nervous and
Today.
your hands start shaking and then.
Oh, well, computers can sense my
Fear. They sense
my
fear.
attitude about them, and there's some sort of reciprocal lack of cooperation that goes on. Thank you.
It's a fear response.
So I think we'll just stick with this image, although we've got plenty of maps and things, but this photograph really tells it all. This is 650 acres that sits right at the top of the Snowmass Creek watershed. It was homesteaded by a very enterprising woman all alone at the turn of the last century, and her name was Kate Lindvig. She was brought west as a mail-order bride, and she decided she was going to have none of that, and got back on the train and ended up in Aspen and built a cattle ranch on this piece of property. The homestead patent was done, I think, in 1904, and she acquired several other pieces and became known as the Cattle Queen of Snowmass. And she ranched up there all on her own until the 1940s. In the intervening period, she conveyed trail easements to the United States for the Forest Service trails that are now so popular, the Snowmass Lake Trail and the West Snowmass Trail. So those have been a part of this landscape for a long time as well. In the 1940s, she sold the property to the Perry family and the Brown family jointly. And of course, Darcy Brown, DRC Brown, is quite the known figure in Aspen's history. So he was a co-owner of this property for a little while. And then the Perry side of the clan consolidated their ownership in the 1950s. But the property's been in this family's ownership now for about 80 years. And during that time, they've really done not much to it. It's pretty much how Kate Lindvig left it, and not far off how the Ute left it to us. It has got a handful of off-grid cabins. There's no utilities on the property except for, I think, one of the cabins has a solar electric system we've learned about. And I'm now about to celebrate my 30th anniversary with the program, and I have been laying awake some nights thinking about this property nearly every year for that 30 years, knowing that someday we would be looking at trying to save it should this family ever decide it was time to sell. Well, they've decided it was time to sell, and feel very fortunate that the voters of Pitkin County saw to equipping us to see that this property is conserved, that it doesn't become another luxury home subdivision in a valley that's probably already got enough of those, and that this context of people walking up this valley will remain the way it's been for over 100 years, and the wilderness experience of thousands of people that hike up to Snowmass Lake is going to stay the same. They may not even realize that this property is being purchased by the county, and maybe that's the way we want it. We're trying to protect a landscape here. So we're very happy to present this, and Gary wasn't able to join us on first reading, but here he is back, and I'll have to say that the team that really put this together, sitting right here, Gary and I and Rye and Paul Holsinger, each had heavy lifting to do to get to the point where we're sitting here today recommending approval. And so Gary, what do you think this means to the open space program?
It's just another property.
Just another property, right?
I mean, I think it's on. No, I mean, this is a monumental purchase for this program. Obviously, the monetary piece of the puzzle is huge, and it's really. I didn't know if you went over this in first reading, but the bonding that you guys did in 2020 has provided you the opportunity to do this, and because of it, we're able to purchase this property, and then try to work with the Forest Service to turn it into wilderness. I mean, so this, to me, as somebody who's been with the program just 20 years, we've been looking at this going, we got to protect this. We got to keep this the way it is. We don't want that road plowed. We don't want utilities brought all the way up there. Don't change it, because the family never changed it. And now we have the opportunity to do that. And so I'm really excited that we're here. I'm still in a little bit of disbelief that we're here. And when it actually closes on February 5th, it's just going to be, it's a monumental purchase, and you guys deserve a ton of credit for taking the initiative and the risk of, bonding at the time you did, and to be able to, keep the mill levy the way it is. And the voters of Pitkin County really support this, as you saw yesterday in the survey, in the community survey. 84% of this community really loves what this program and what the county has been able to do. So I think this just is kind of one of those massive wins for the citizens of Pitkin County and for the environment. So I really,
thank you for that.
I could go on for hours and hours, but I know
No,
you guys
let's not. Let's get through this.
I knew it.
Okay.
But thank you, Gary. If I could, I just want to say that we are incredibly grateful for the staff who worked so hard on this for so long, and for the staff who had the vision to think about it going back 30 years plus, and for the the generosity of the community who value open space the way we all do. And then also to the generosity of the Perrys, the gratitude we have for the Perrys for coming to this difficult decision and making it work. And I think we can't underscore enough how important that is, and how grateful we are to them. I've been thinking a lot about pressure on public lands lately, and combine that with the property values and the appreciation that we're seeing, the inflation of values. There's no surprise that this would be the most expensive open space purchase yet, because we've seen such massive appreciation. If you guys want to play, if open space and the county want to play in open space preservation, we have to be able to show up and put some money down. And this was a hard bargain that was driven by both sides, and a fair bargain. but it's a high price tag. But it's not about the price tag at this point, because we're seeing valuations across the board everywhere, not just Pitkin County, going up. And so I'm not as surprised by the number, but I'm still surprised and grateful that we have such support. And I see you brought Tim McFlynn with you, and if he wanted to say a couple words, that'd be great.
Yeah,
And
let
I'll
me
open it up.
May I introduce our esteemed guest here? And I misspoke a second ago. I'm about to celebrate 25 years at the program, so quarter century.
Inflation.
Right. However, it was over 30 years ago that this gentleman first was tasked by our friend Connie Harvey with creating an open space program for this county, and took on that challenge and drafted the original charter and ran several successive campaigns. I think we counted 4 of them. So it's really great to have Tim McFlynn here to kind of share in this moment, which, as Gary just mentioned, is kind of a pinnacle of what we've been able to do over all these years.
And I was going to say, Tim McFlynn has this is an incredible legacy for you, and a career full of amazing accomplishments. And this is just one of them. But give us a little update on how you're doing and how what you think about this.
I think it's extraordinary, and what I want to emphasize.
Turn his microphone on.
Uh-oh, she's coming to get you.
Yep.
Is it working now?
Okay. Should be better. Yep.
I was a near neighbor of this property for 23 years. Hiked through it constantly from the ranch I lived on at milepost 6 on Snowmass Creek Road. And it's really the crown jewel of an amazing landscape, that whole valley. And we can't thank the Perry family, all of them, and there are scores of them to thank. And I want to look at Gary and Dale and Rye, because it never would happen without and Paul, without their vision, perseverance. That's why we're here. So that's all.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Great teamwork. I've been kind of hearing that the Forest Service is somewhat concerned about access to public lands, or the ability to handle the pressure of people on public lands. And if you could explain a little bit about some of the issues we've had with the trailhead and the parking, and it's too soon to say what we're actually going to do up there. But I think one of the reasons for acquiring this portal to the wilderness is to try and get a better grip on some of those issues.
Yeah, well, it is, this is one of those areas where, it accesses some of the most beautiful, areas in the wilderness in the entire world. And so obviously a lot of people want to get there. And the Forest Service has not been able to really do much with the trailhead. And so the trailhead does get overcrowded and packed, and there are definitely issues. But what we found last year, we did surveys with Utah State University, is once you get past that trailhead, no one reports any conflict. Very few conflicts are actually reported. And watching their GPS data and everything else of where they're going, they're mostly staying on the trails. And so the pressure of our public lands in this area, the Forest Service did a reservation system now for camping. And that's significantly one of the big issues, was actually up at the lake. And with that reservation system and our survey is showing that people aren't finding the conflict on the trails. So the trailhead is something that we're going to have to look at. It's definitely something that, we have the ability to do. We've done it in many other places, and it helps alleviate some of it. It's not to just create more parking. It's to create better management of the parking. So, equestrians can access this area, and people can access this area. If we have an emergency, the emergency responders can access this area. And I feel I feel confident that now that we are going to own it as the county, that we can start this process with the Forest Service. And as we look to transfer some of this land back to the Forest Service to become actual wilderness, I think we will all see how we're going to manage that in a much better way than it's being managed today. And the good thing is what we see is the public really is doing the right thing up there. We're not, I mean, the Perry family has been an amazing steward of this property, but it's hard for them to watch it. And so people haven't been going all over the place, and they kind of stay on the trails. And I think we just got to create that ethic and steward that ethic and get educating on that ethic. And I think we're going to see here that we're going to create a legacy here and a future here, and it's hopefully not going to look a whole lot different 40 years from now than what you see today.
Oh, great. Thank you. I wanted to bring it to my board. Sorry, go ahead, Dale, and then we'll bring it back.
Well, before staff wraps up, I know Rye's got one technical change on the ordinance that we want to get on the record.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Ryan Neely, Assistant County Attorney. I did make a technical change to the ordinance that was in your packet, and it is on page 2. I added a new item 2 under the ordaining language here that's designating myself to act on behalf of the BoCC to complete this transaction. That was done at the request of the title company. I've never had that request come in before, but here we are.
Well,
So,
your name will be on it in perpetuity.
that's
in that
right.
case.
So will it read upon satisfaction of the Assistant County Attorney?
Now it's going to read further that the chair's designee shall be authorized to, and now there is a new bullet point number 2, which is designate Richard Y. Neely III, Assistant County Attorney, to act on behalf of the BoCC as its agent and designee to consummate the transaction. I'm already that,
You're
frankly,
already
but here we are.
I think it's just because of our low approval ratings that they
That's
just wanted
probably
you to
right.
sign it.
That's
instead of-
exactly right.
No. He can sign on your behalf, Greg. Don't worry.
Yeah. So.
Okay, I get the message.
The-
Okay, Patty.
Well,
Sorry.
with
Dale.
one
Go ahead.
last comment. I would be remiss if I didn't add that the Open Space and Trails Board of Trustees, who work without compensation, put in countless hours on all these things that we do, helping the staff vet these projects, voted unanimously in support of this, and they, as well as we, recommend this for your approval.
Great, thank you, and thank you to the Open Space Board. What a great board, and what amazing work they and you have all done. Somebody had Patty, and then Kelly, and then Steve.
Yeah, I said this at first reading, and I'm going to reiterate, but this photograph is not photoshopped. I want everyone to know that. So for the people of Pitkin County, this is what you get. And for the people of the Roaring Fork Valley, this is what you get. For the state of Colorado, for our country, and as Gary mentioned, around the world, this is what you get, and this picture is in all its glory. So thank you, guys, and thanks to the Perry family and all the hard work. And Tim, thank you for all you've done for open space and continue to do for open space in our county. We really do appreciate your time and effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Kelly?
Yeah, I'm thrilled to approve this today. I would note when we bonded at such a advantageous time. We got a bonus on the bonding, which has contributed to this. So that's great. And, huge thanks to the Perry family and to our taxpayers for supporting this, for supporting the bonding authority, and hopefully for celebrating and getting out to experience this. When I came to Aspen, first visited 20 years ago, I slept on Rob Ittner's couch, ate at the cantina, and then the next day I went and backpacked through here. That's the first place I really visited. Yep. And then last summer, I like to do a solo backpacking trip to sort of reset the soul every year. And this was where I went. And it's as beautiful and more beautiful in person as the photos. It can be a day trip. I would encourage people to just do a quick out and back if that's all you can do, and to experience it, because it is truly a magical place. And thank you for stewarding it.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
Steve?
So I'd like to share a story, and maybe it was a premature celebration, but my daughter Robin was a seasonal wilderness ranger for the Forest Service back in the day, and she discovered along the Snowmass Lake Trail, I'm not sure if it was in the Perry's Ranch or just beyond it, but she discovered a case of dynamite set by a big boulder. And I always wondered if that dynamite was left there by Kate Lindvig or maybe by Bob Perry years ago, that they needed some dynamite for something. So the Forest Service got an explosives expert, and he and my daughter went up there, and he packed some plastic explosives around this old case of dynamite. And then one of them went up the trail, one went down the trail to keep any hikers from wandering in right when they set it off. They blew up the dynamite, and it totally blew up the rock that it was sitting next to. And I happened to be outside over at my house right when that went off, and it was a loud explosion from Capitol Creek, like miles away from there, to make the trail safer for the hikers going up there. And that's why I say it was a premature celebration. I wish we could blow that dynamite up now with this, like celebrating this transaction, because it's that big of a deal to have a big fireworks display.
Back when I was in high school, we would have been really disappointed to hear that you found it first. Thanks, Steve, for that. That's really fascinating. I was thinking just about Kate Lindvig, and she's one of a few, or maybe many, incredible women pioneers who've been in our valley from that point on and since. And it'd be great to learn more about Kate Lindvig, because, wow, what a incredible story. And I kind of wonder what happened to the husband, the mail order husband. Did he just get,
Well, he never actually got a chance to become a husband. The way I heard the story told, he was out in Nebraska somewhere.
And she never made it there.
There's a great Mark Knopfler song about the prairie wedding that sort of has the same thing, only that one, in the song, the wedding actually takes place. But apparently, these lonely guys out in the prairie would start corresponding with someone somewhere, and arrangements were made, and this is, how things could happen, but not with Kate. She apparently got off the train in the middle of Nebraska. A nice, Swedish, very proud woman, took a look around, didn't even have a chance to meet the guy, and said, "Not here." Got back on the train, which was coming this direction. So
fantastic. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Sorry, Francie, go ahead. I apologize, Francie. I didn't even see you there. Go ahead. Still, there you go.
Did you just call on me, Greg?
I thought you had your hand up and you may want to say something.
I did. I think I had my say 2 weeks ago when we had the first reading. I would just hope that we don't sit on our laurels now, and that we look for ways to help the family stay engaged in the stewardship of this property, some of the members of the family.
Thanks, Francie. Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak in the room, raise your hand for me and come on down. I don't know if we have anyone online. We'll check that at the same time.
Looks like Bart has his hand up.
And Bart has his hand up. Yeah, this is why Bart's here. Lily's here for this too.
I see that.
Bart, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I won't say much. Just wanted to thank the county staff again. We'll look forward to the closing here in a couple weeks. With regard to Kate Lindvig, Dale and Gary, I'm not sure I sent them to you because they wouldn't have been any legal significance, but I do have copies in PDF form of old receipts from Kate buying supplies at the Mercantile in Aspen at the turn of the last century that are pretty interesting. I mean, I'll send them to you guys. They're kind of fun to read through because it, shows her buying 3 hose for 75 cents each and things like that. So
Was there a case of dynamite on that shopping list?
No case of dynamite that I recall.
Well, we want those, Bart, and it's, if you're aware of any historic photographs that might be among your clients' archives, those would be nice to have as well.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any photographs. I did go through pretty extensive files from the clients to see what they had that was, kind of relevant for my work, and we came across these receipts, and they were too kind of interesting not to make a copy of. So I'll forward those to you guys.
Bart, I was thinking that it would be great if the Perrys have any history that they want to share with the community that we might archive about the property, or photos of the family in the old days. Or I just remember my experience on there with the Turnbulls and the Perrys on a pack trip we did for a photo TV shoot years ago. And I was just thinking, hopefully there'll be an archive about the people who lived and worked that land for so many decades. And if they have anything.
I'm sure that some of the family, particularly the still living children of Bob and Ruth Perry, have anecdotes and things like that. I'll let you guys figure out exactly how to extract all that from those folks. But I'm sure some of them will be happy to talk to you, to the staff, and convey what they remember.
Great.
Reaching out.
Thank you. Okay, that was Bart. If there's anybody else, I don't think we had any other commenters. McKelliff, just check just to make sure, and then we will keep going. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to my board, and I would entertain a motion authorizing the purchase of Snowmass Falls Ranch from Perry Snowmass LLC.
So moved.
Okay, Kelly moved, and who seconded?
I'll be glad to second it.
Steve seconds. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you all. That's a 5-0 in favor.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming in. It's always fun to hear about this.
Thank you.
Thank
Can't
you.
wait to see what happens next.
Greg, board, community, voters, everybody, thank you.
Okay, we're going to take I think we need about a 6-minute break. Kelly needs to run an errand. I would go get some water, and then we'll be back for the final couple things.
Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. We're back at the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, Wednesday, January 24th. We're on item number 8. Up next is an ordinance of the board amending Title 8 of the Pitkin County Code, Title 8, Section 63070 GMQS exemption for large lots, 500 plus acre parcels. This is the third reading, and Ryan Neely is on deck.
Thanks, Greg. Ryan Neely, Assistant County Attorney. This feels like more than 3 readings, but that's because it's been back and forth with you all and the Planning and Zoning Commission a number of times. And I think that through that process, it has gotten to be a better change to the land use code than what was originally proposed by the county attorney's office, which was to remove this provision from the land use code altogether. As the title to the ordinance suggests, this land use code text amendment deals with an existing GMQS exemption in the Pitkin County Land Use Code for large lots over 500 acres. And I should say Suzanne helped a ton with this, so it wasn't just all the county attorney's office. So she certainly helped me out with writing the code language, so I appreciate her help on that. Since the last reading of this ordinance, there have been changes to the proposed code language that was presented to the planning, those changes were presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission and came out of the Planning and Zoning Commission. As you'll recall, the Land Use Code has a procedure that if the BoCC makes a substantial change to a Land Use Code text amendment or a zoning action, in this case a Land Use Code text amendment, that change needs to be referred to the Planning and Zoning Commission for further comment to this board. And that is because this is a 2-step process in our Land Use Code, and the Planning and Zoning Commission is the recommendation body to this board. In any event, I'm going to go through those changes, but I'm going to start with the one that's furthest down in the proposed language that's in your packet. And that language is on page 12. I don't know where it is of the actual land use code, chapter 6. I'm not sure where that falls in your packet. But this has to do with the vesting of floor area approved by the BoCC through special review.
Page 141.
141 of the packet? Thank you. So it's 141 of the packet. So this is a new section that Suzanne and I added after this board expressed concern that perhaps there was not enough incentive for a property owner to utilize this 500-acre GMQS exemption, given that the property owner is required to grant a perpetual conservation easement and some of the other, well, particularly the addition of special review and a review by the board, Open Space and Trails Board of the conservation easement, essentially making this provision more onerous to use. So there was an idea presented by this board that, hey, maybe we should look at some unique vesting or even perpetual vesting for the floor area granted through the special review process. And so Suzanne and I brought that particular question back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously voted to recommend that the floor area approved by the BoCC through the special review process be vested in perpetuity with the property and essentially run with title to the property. So if the BoCC granted a 250 square foot approval for in connection with this particular land use code provision, that floor area would live with the property throughout the life of the property going forward and could always be built up to that amount. Do you want me to go through all the changes, or do you want to ask about that one before we move on?
Why don't we just see if anyone wants to discuss this? No? Kelly? Is that
No, I think I understand it, though. There's also a provision here related to a unique vested right. How do we think about those? I'm looking
I think that is an oversight. Suzanne and I were scrambling to get this out on Friday. And I believe, and that's a great catch, Kelly, that should read that the vested right be perpetual for the floor area. So that's a typographical error on my part.
I'm looking at page 12,
Right.
section 4 under floor area vesting.
Yeah, I think I just forgot to delete that sentence, but what it should say is the BoCC special review. Sorry, this is on page 12 for the new subparagraph 4 that starts with floor area vesting. It should read, the BoCC special review approval shall perpetually vest the property as to the approved floor area, which shall be based on the final maximum floor area applicable to the property at the time of approval. And then it should say, the perpetual vested right for floor area shall be memorialized in a development agreement. Other than floor area, the property shall not receive perpetual vesting from any other zoning or land use code changes. So the change there is from unique in that second to last sentence to perpetual.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Good catch, Kelly. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Can I just ask a question about perpetual vesting? I don't hear that used very often. How often do we have other, can you describe any other perpetual vesting we have?
Sure.
Maybe some things are just by right already, but I don't understand.
We don't really have any other provisions in the code that specifically state that vesting shall be perpetual. Under the open space preservation master planning process in the land use code, that is where that unique vested rights language comes from. And often the request is that those vested rights are granted in perpetuity. So for example, with Tommy Moore's property that we did up on the Moore Ranch on McLean Flats, this board granted perpetual vested rights for the development that was set out in the approval for that property.
Got it.
But other than that in the code, and Suzanne can correct me if I'm wrong about that, I don't believe there's anywhere else that has a perpetual vested right for floor area. So this is certainly unique in that regard.
Got it. It makes me nervous when we say perpetual. And I don't think I'm going to open it up. I don't have any suggestions, but.
Yeah, and if I can jump in, Greg, the reasoning that the Planning and Zoning Commission at least engaged in when making this recommendation that the floor area entitlement run with title to the property in perpetuity was that the owner was being asked or required to record a corresponding conservation easement against the property, which would burden the property in perpetuity. And the thinking of the Planning and Zoning Commission was that the quid pro quo was more equal if the floor area was guaranteed along with the life of the conservation easement.
Okay, that makes it easier to swallow somehow. Thank you.
I would say, and my goal throughout this conversation was, how do we still incentivize somebody to want to do a 500-acre, development that with one house on it, as opposed to subdivision or something. So it's more of an incentive for them to
Right.
take the advantage of this portion of the code.
Yep, thank you. I understand that. Any comments, Steve?
Yeah, in general, I'm in favor of longer vesting periods.
Then perpetual?
Longer than 3 years. There are some drawbacks. The code can change, the building code could change, the person could still get the previous building code to apply. but they don't have the pressure to build the house immediately in a 3-year period. It might take them 20 years to build the house. They don't have the pressure to do it immediately, so the longer vesting period has other benefits. A perpetual one, I would think somebody would build sooner than, 100 years, but maybe they want to pass it on to their family as something they could do sometime in the future. So there's not a pressure anymore for them to build the house right now with the subsequent dump trucks and land being torn up and all that I'm looking at every day when I drive down the road now. So
Sure, yeah. Suzanne and I had that very conversation with Mr. Kaufman and Mr. Horn, who are in the room here, and about the benefits that can be reaped from having a longer vesting period. And it was based on the exact reasoning you're talking about with legacy ranches and things like that, and passing on to kids and changing generations. So anyway.
Thank you. I see Francie has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. So just for clarification, Rye, this 15,000 square foot exemption, or whatever we're going to call it, is just for Two Shoes. They're the only place that qualify for this. Is that correct?
No.
As Gideon purported in his letter?
No,
Is there any other place?
That's so the Two Shoes Ranch or the Bain Tracks utilized this exemption in the past, and the change that was made in response to some of comments received about that property are in subparagraph 3 here, which deals with previous approvals, and that change was presented to this board last time, and it essentially just recognizes that if a property has gone through 500-acre GMQS exemption process in the past, that approval continues to live on despite expiration of some of the vesting periods and things like that.
Go ahead.
There are other properties in the county that could potentially utilize this GMQS exemption that have not used it yet, namely the monastery property up Snowmass and Capitol Creek.
And Sue Ann Schutz's place?
Correct.
Okay, so if we allow, so in the future, it'll be 9,250, correct? It won't be 15,000 for?
Correct.
And will that include, or will there be allotments made for affordable housing? I am kind of concerned that I want to make sure that we're not closing the door on these places providing affordable housing for their own employees through the language in this.
Thanks for bringing that up, Francie.
Sure. That was a concern that has been raised by various members of the public making comments, including in a letter in your packet from Bart Johnson, who we got to hear from earlier today. The code as it's currently drafted does not allow affordable housing or an employee housing on any of these properties in any zone district outside of the urban growth boundary. And maybe I'm getting that wrong to some extent, but most properties are limited to one single family dwelling unit, and in some zone districts you can have a caretaker dwelling unit as well, which is limited at 1,000 square feet of floor area. If you do put a CDU on your property, that floor area, that 1,000 square feet, reduces the overall floor area available for use on the property. So if you had an approval for 9,250 square feet and you wanted to have a 1,000 square foot CDU on the property, you could build a house that's 8,250 square feet and a CDU that's 1,000 square feet for an aggregate of 9,250 square feet. In order to allow employee housing or affordable housing or a ranch manager's house or whatever you want to call it, or to increase the size of the CDU that's allowed on a property to facilitate those types of uses, that would require some kind of land use code and zoning change for the applicable zone district or zone districts, or countywide if you wanted to do it that way. But
Well,
nothing.
I think that we do, as we move forward, I think we do need to consider, I don't want it to impact our decision today necessarily about this, but I think as we move forward, we definitely need to look at how to facilitate employee housing on these kinds of properties. Any kind of working ranch, whether it's 500 acres or 250 acres, anything that's going to be employing people on a regular full-time basis, I don't think we should be setting limitations on the ability for them to provide that housing themselves. So I'd like to look at this in the near future so that we can move forward with sound planning for increased employee housing on these properties.
Thank you, Francie. It's a separate issue, but I think we should bring it back, and we will make sure to get it on an agenda and discuss it with Rye and staff. I agree with you. Thank you. Steve?
So people are saying that there's only a couple of properties in the whole county this applies to. That's not to prevent someone from combining two bigger ranch parcels, which that could easily happen in Capitol Creek area, to make a parcel over 500 acres that they could take advantage of this provision. So there could be other properties created just by land purchases that we don't foresee at this time.
You've mentioned that in the past, Steve, and I keep forgetting to add that caveat to that. So correct.
Okay. Any other comments from the board before any other?
I just have a couple other real changes that I've made since the last reading, and they're relatively non-substantive.
These are, I think these are in response to some of the input you've had from.
Yeah, they're in response to some of the public comment that's been received from these gentlemen, as well as Bart Johnson and Mike Kramer, who have a letter in your packet. One of the changes that, moving up through the provision, I guess, let me slide back down. There was some concern that the special review criteria that is applicable to any application for special review, including this one, was undermined by some language that I had inartfully included in my original draft of this particular provision. And that was under the BoCC approval section, which is paragraph 1. And in that paragraph, or subparagraph 1, in that paragraph, I had said that the BoCC may deny the application on any reasonable basis. And I agree with Bart that that was just too broad and perhaps could cause some confusion about complying with the special review criteria. So as it's drafted now, it just says that the BoCC approval is discretionary, which of course it always is for a special review, and the applicant is required to review and present responses to the special review criteria that exists in the code now. So I just struck that last sentence after the comma in it.
Right, thank you.
And then, and Suzanne really helped me out with this one. There was some concern about when the conservation easement would be recorded and when the Open Space and Trails Board would review the conservation easement. We amended a couple provisions. We added that in the main body of in subparagraph A there, we added that in addition to special review, there would also be a requirement to go, it's still in, let me start over. In subparagraph A1, in the same paragraph we were just talking about, Susanna and I added that activity envelope approval should be or must be pursued at the same time as special review approval in the code. That's to help establish where the activity envelopes on the property will be, as well as the activity envelopes that will be memorialized in the conservation easement. In the next paragraph, subsection A2, the activity envelope recordation will also trigger recordation of the conservation easement. So that's how we addressed concerns that were raised about the timing and sequence of getting all these items done. Other than that, I don't have any other changes to the land use code from second or third reading or whatever it is.
Right.
So.
Thank you for going through that. I had a chance to talk to Rye earlier just to hear about what was coming, so thank you for bringing that through. I'm going to open it up to public comment unless, Francie, did you have something you wanted to add? Your hand is still up.
Yes, I had some more questions I didn't get to ask last time. One would be, one of the things that Gideon mentioned is that by requiring the conservation easement, we are possibly jeopardizing the property owner's ability to get the the charitable contribution tax benefit. I want to know if that's true. That's one question. And then also whether or not this is going to also disincentivize the ability to create their own renewable energy production. And those are the two main ongoing questions.
Thanks.
Sure. As far as the tax question goes, the recordation of the conservation easement does not simply by that act foreclose the ability to pursue a tax benefit or tax credit or seek some kind of charitable tax advantage, whatever that is. What you're going to be faced with in a circumstance where you record a conservation easement against the property and then subsequently seek to utilize, for example, the state's tax credit system, you're going to be faced with a valuation exercise. And that valuation exercise would be conducted by a qualified appraiser to value the before and after value of what is being recorded on the property, in this case a conservation easement, and evaluate if there's any charitable value left.
Whether it's mandated or not?
Whether it's mandated or not. There will certainly be because it is a requirement in the land use code, there will certainly be an analysis of a quid pro quo type of exchange for the land use approval. And, to the extent that the property owner is able to show some additional diminution in value of their property through either recording additional restrictions against it or some other charitable ability to demonstrate some charitable value, the landowner would potentially be able to do that. But there's certainly the possibility that recording the conservation easement on the property in connection with utilizing this approval process could forego the ability to seek further tax benefit. It's certainly a possibility.
Okay. And both Bart and Gideon asked about why does it have to be a Pitkin County conservation easement? Why couldn't it be AVLT or somebody else? While we're on the conservation easement question.
Sure.
Can you respond to that?
Yeah, I can't remember if I had this in the packet for last time, but I did add at one point that I added some language in subparagraph 2 under conservation easement that says at the request of the applicant and if agreed to by the BoCC, the conservation easement may be held in addition to Pitkin County, may be held by a co-holder. And I believe that was the direction I had from the board on that. So if Pitkin County and AVLT wanted to hold it, that would be great. Or Pitkin County and some other, Roaring Fork Conservancy or something like that, we could certainly do that.
Okay, thank you. And then the renewable energy production?
I believe it's similar to the language or the employee housing discussion and affordable housing discussion. I think you're really looking at whatever's allowed in the zone district, the applicable zone district. So if those uses were allowed on the property in the zone district as an accessory use or something like that, then I believe you would have the ability to include that in your application. If it's currently not allowed, and I think generally Suzanne would have to help me out about what scale and size of renewable energy is allowed on any particular property. It would just be governed by the existing code right now. So whatever's in the
And
code.
conservation easements don't preclude it?
I think you would need to, the conservation easement could preclude it. So you would need to include the ability to have that, whatever it is, let's say it's a solar array,
Okay.
in the conservation easement at the time it's recorded.
Okay, thank you, Ry.
So it's a one-off situation. Thanks for those questions, Francie.
Yeah, most conservation easements would prohibit something like a large-scale, utility-sized renewable energy project.
Right. Thank you. All right. I think it's time to open this to public comment. If we have any online, I'd like to know. And it doesn't appear that we do, but we have people in the room. If either Gideon, why don't you come up? You have to come all the way up. You have to come up to say you have nothing to say.
I came all the way up to say that I have nothing to say unless you guys decide to discuss something that's not in here. So if it's, we work very closely with Ryan and Suzanne and appreciate the changes. And Glenn and I are fine unless there's discussion at the board level that changes that, then I'd like to preserve my opportunity to address that. And Francie, the one thing I did want to say as it relates to the affordable housing, Glenn and I do intend to bring forward a code amendment that would permit working ranches to have affordable housing on them and not limit them to 1,000 square feet. Because if you have a family and you want to keep them long term like we have on our ranch, 1,000 square feet, it's hard to motivate a family with kids to that. So we intend to bring that forward at a future time.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank
Gideon.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for participating with us in this process. We look forward to seeing that proposal. And I might throw in as an advocate for renewable energy and understanding the connectivity of renewable energy and all that, that might be something to contemplate as well. Probably not in the same exact proposal, but that's an issue coming forward that we're discussing on a state level with Governor Ritter.
Ritter?
Yeah, we're having an
Oh,
occasional conference with
say-
Ritter. Yeah, former Governor Ritter. I can say that for you.
Something
Yeah,
happened
he
while
hasn't
I
been there
had
in a
the
while.
flu.
Flashbacks.
Sadly,
so
no.
Sadly, no. That's going to be a topic of discussion going forward. So if you guys have anything to weigh in on that, maybe think about it. Okay, that's public comment on this topic. I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back to the board and say what you'd like to say and or offer a motion. Kelly?
Yeah, I'll just say since we started this conversation last summer, I believe.
2 years ago.
Yeah. My concerns have been ameliorated, and I appreciate the hard work and finesse of staff and interested stakeholders on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kelly? Or, sorry, Patty. That's Kelly. You're
Confused me.
Patty. That's the
Yeah,
mask.
and yeah, it's Kelly. You brought up some really good points from the very beginning, and I do. Suzanne and Rye, great job. I think a lot of the issues, some of them that Francie brought up, are things we're going to be addressing with the Growth Management Committee output and what their recommendations are. So I think we have a lot more to discuss as far as housing outside the urban growth boundary and appropriate size, location, et cetera. And the same thing with renewables. So I think this is something we've been talking about doing, and we got there thanks to the hard work and effort you guys put in, and we really appreciate it. Glenn and Gideon, thanks for keeping us on our mark here. And I do want it in writing and signed that Glenn and Gideon are in agreement that this is working for them. So I want it notarized, and because with all their hard work, and same thing with Bart Johnson and Mike Kramer, we thank you guys for coming forward and helping us out.
Great. Ditto for me on that. Steve?
Yeah, I was thinking that Gideon and Glenn should have plaques put on their 2 seats over there because they've been regulars here at our meetings on this issue. And you've staked your territory. You did a good job providing input that we listened to, and we came up with a better product right now. Also, the land use code is not set in stone perpetually. It's always a work in progress, and if we don't get this exactly right, we definitely can make changes to it going forward.
Or leave it to the next board.
So I would like to make a motion to approve the ordinance of the board amending Title 8 of the Pitkin County Code, Title 8, Section 6-30-70, GMQS exemption for large lots, 500+ acre parcels.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
A second from Kelly. Further conversation? I don't see any. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Rod.
Voted in at 1:50 p.m.
Gideon, we have the
Fantastic.
next meeting is Valentine's Day. You're more than welcome.
Yeah,
Again, Patty, I'm here for energy.
Oh, okay, that's
feel
right.
free to hang out.
I'll bring my Valentine's card.
Wear your Valentine's costume. Thank you, guys. Okay, I think all we have left on this agenda is open discussion. Any open discussion items? Patty?
I forgot, be remiss, this weekend is X Games. And I want the public to enjoy. Please be safe. Remember, ride the bus, or remember, ride the bus. And just be safe out there, guys. It gets a little crazy at times, lots of people, but please enjoy. It's, you never know what to expect at X Games. The other thing, I don't know if any of the board's going to is it, John, incident management? What are we calling it?
IMT.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the incident management team?
Yeah, are anybody gonna go to the mountain rescue and tour on, I think it's on Saturday? I'm gonna try and stop by, but we're having another event for Tommy out in Snowmass that afternoon, so I didn't know if any of the
I was going to plan on going by on Saturday.
It's
Yeah.
pretty fun to go and
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. And John, did we not do work on the audio here in this meeting room?
I think that's what
I can
the
tell you
issue
it's
is.
not working well on our end right now, so we're gonna need to revisit
Okay, okay.
what, yeah.
Thank you, thanks. That's all I have. Thanks, Greg.
Anyone else? Comments?
I'm wondering from Francie and Steve, your plans to attend the CCI steering committee meetings Thursday and Friday. I'm driving down to Denver tonight. So I'm happy to cover as much as possible. I will have to leave Thursday afternoon for a meeting at the Senate Leadership's office, but curious as to what you guys are planning.
I am leaving this afternoon to go to Crested Butte for the CAST meetings, and I am planning on calling in on Friday to my committees. But Kelly, could I let you know if we're driving and I'm out of range, or for some reason I can't participate?
Yes, yeah, that would be helpful to stay in touch. Ideally, I'd love to get on the road a little earlier Friday than 4 p.m., which is when they say it will be over, to drive home, but we can stay in touch about that.
Okay, great, thank you.
So I will be driving down early tomorrow morning, and I'll be there both days. I will be leaving for a short time at noon for our agenda meeting with Greg and John. And I have a doctor's appointment by phone at 2:30, which is after you have to leave, Kelly. So
Okay.
I think there will be a short time. I'm not sure my appointment won't be too long, but maybe 15 minutes or so, where we won't have anybody there to vote on those steering committee issues. And all of those on Thursday afternoon are pretty much the ones that I'm the representative on.
Except for tax. Might need your help
Tax?
covering.
Yeah. So I'm willing to cover for either Francie or Kelly because I'll be there, and if you have
Thank
to
you.
leave the room or can't be there, I can be there.
Okay, great.
And
Stay in touch. Thank you.
I'm planning on staying till the end of the public lands on Friday afternoon and braving the skier traffic going home.
I have two things real quick though for Kelly, if
ahead.
you don't mind.
Yeah.
Kelly, you wanted to talk to me about an ACRA?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is I'm going to be going to Denver next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I'm hoping to meet with Perry Will. So talk about the real estate transfer fee. So maybe we can touch base.
Yeah, we should get it because it's.
And I'm going to try and set something up with Levi too to get some information. And John and Francie, if anything comes out of the CAS meeting, please let me know. As I said, I'm going to hopefully be meeting with Perry Will, Senator Will, when I'm in Denver next week.
Francie?
Okay, can I respond to that, Greg?
Yeah, go ahead.
Patty, when I was at the Cattlemen's Association on
yeah,
Saturday, Perry was definitely the most entertaining part of that dreadfully long meeting, but one of the bills that he is hoping to introduce or is involved with would, instead of stopping drivers and if they don't have ID, issuing some kind of ticket or something, now they're going to insist that if a driver is stopped without an ID, they would be put in jail. So I would like us to have our eyes open about that. It's definitely obviously targeted at undocumented workers and refugees. So it was rather disturbing.
Yeah.
who's putting that bill out?
I don't know. I thought he said that he was involved with it. You know, he talked about his reintroduction of Wolverines, which I haven't seen. It's still in committee, I think. And this one hasn't been introduced yet because when I went to the CCI legislative session update, whatever that's called, they didn't mention anything about that, nor did they mention the Wolverines. So I'm assuming it has not yet been introduced, but it's definitely something that even people at the Cattlemen's Association were sort of like, what? So it's certainly not something I'd like to see passed.
Yeah, so if we could maybe have Levi follow up and give me some information, that would be terrific. I'm looking at John Peacock to maybe Levi can help. Did he mention anything about, I think it's Senate Bill 23, which is something to do with public meetings and maybe CPW? He and Dylan Roberts. I always call him Dylan Thomas.
It's in the news today, yeah.
I think of who have proposed this, it's about making them more really communicative meetings, and I don't know if it's just isolated to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission. That was another one I just heard him interviewed on. So there's a couple things. He's also, I'll talk to him about the fire insurance bills that he's talking about.
I was going to ask you for that.
And if anybody else has anything, just send me a text message and I'll follow up next week.
So Perry did mention he has 5 bills he's bringing forward that he's sponsoring. And Francie mentioned 2 of them. I don't have my notes with me from the Cattlemen's meeting, but he does have 3 other bills, and I just can't recall right now what they are.
His is I think he's doing the fire insurance and this bill about these public meetings and communication. I think that's 23. And this is the first I heard about if you don't have your, how many times you run to the grocery store and don't have your driver's license and now you're going to go to jail? If you get pulled over.
Any ID. No, it's not driver's license if you don't have ID.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to understand the data they're using to justify that bill. If they're talking about increased accidents due to drivers who don't have not only credentials but maybe don't have proper driver's education and don't understand the rules, maybe that's where that's coming from, but I'd love to see the data on that would support that.
I also would
I don't think it's
doubt
coming from that at all.
I would doubt this is part of our.
Yeah, you would doubt what?
We're talking over each other here. Sorry.
I would doubt that this is included in our county arrest standards, our sheriff's
Probably not.
arrest standards.
Thank you. Well, and Francie, thank you for bringing that up. That's I wanted to bring up. If we're done with that conversation, just regarding X Games, welcoming everybody here. The issue lately has been, I know there's some trepidation on the part of the city and on our board also regarding subsidizing X Games and having them charge for VIP tickets. That's an issue that will definitely be coming back next fall, I promise. But I also wanted to say that recently we saw a great headline in the paper that said the governor and Bustang and CDOT were going to bus X Games participants to Aspen for the X Games. And they neglected to mention RAFTA in the headlines, and RAFTA is essential for that to work, because Bustang's going to drop people in Glenwood Springs, and then RAFTA is going to be doing the heavy lifting, getting them to the X Games and back. I did speak with Dan Blankenship at RAFTA about it to make sure that RAFTA was prepared for perhaps an influx of X Games attendees getting off the Bustang buses, the 5 extra Bustang buses that will be bringing people up from the Front Range. And they're looking at, accommodating people in the event of a late night snowstorm or cold temperatures, anything like that, because it could be there'll be an influx of people perhaps unprepared to be out in the cold in the middle of the night waiting for a bus down in Glenwood Springs even, or anywhere between here and there. And so RAFTA was an essential part of that, and I have to say I was a little bit discouraged when I saw that the governor and Bustang and CDOT were announcing this and had not really included RAFTA and in the essential nature of RAFTA to make it all happen. So people should know RAFTA is part of this, and they are going to make sure it's a smooth operation between Aspen and Glenwood Springs. Thanks.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Okay, with that, I would take a motion to...
Wait, is John?
Oh, is John still here? I don't know if he had anything.
Yeah, I'm still here. I don't have anything today.
Great. Thanks, John. I hope you feel better. And everyone else out there, stay healthy and safe. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Patty and then Kelly, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Grassroots.
Great week.